And not to say that him being a father is a heroic thing. It should be something he should be doing anyway. Not to put a cape on his chest and an S on his chest, a cape on his back and an S on his chest. But he needs to be celebrated more instead of put down so much, like you were saying earlier, Julia.
And I think to that point, I mean, I really don't want this discussion to come across. We're sitting around discussing this, but actually, the boys and the men who we were talking about, I very much doubt that they're sitting down with a pen and paper making notes right now. And I'm just thinking that the way that we approach...
Why should they make notes? I mean, come on,
because we're saying that they need to be taught, that they need to read this book. And they're not going to read that book, let's be honest.
They may not agree with you. Incidentally, Michael, I'm not sure that you're right about you say Malcolm X wasn't a good father necessarily. No, that's wrong, because I've spoken...
And how a man should treat a woman.
It's interesting, isn't it, that what we're saying, and what you're saying, Nikki, is that, in fact, the issue is a woman's issue in getting a boy to treat a woman with respect. Let's expand on that in a moment. I know that's not quite what you're saying. We'll expand on you said it. I think eloquently, whether people agree with it or not, you said it very eloquently. I can't argue with that. I'm going to go around the table because I'm going to unpack the things that you said. Uchi said basically two things, and I'm coming back to you in a moment, Cheryl. I haven't forgotten the a priori question for you, but Uchi said essentially two things. One, first of all, the problem of, if you like, disrespect in society from man to a woman or boy to girl comes from the kind of society we live in. And that, with its positive, in his view, positive and negative sides, there's certain freedom in society that we live in today. Women are free and can bring up the kids on their own and are independent and blah blah blah, and they have the law on their side to a certain extent when it comes to children. Many of us. You're looking at me in a kind of what is that look on your face, Cheryl? What have I said?
Boy.
Hang on.
I'm listening. I'm listening to the whole lot of contradictory terms.
Yeah.
That means that all of us in the studio, correct me if I'm wrong, are all black African and Caribbean, whatever term. Yeah. That means that all of us hate each other, according to Uche.
That's the second part.
Because that makes no sense to me.
Okay, that's the second part of what he said. But the first part is that the complication starts from the society that we live in, and I'm trying to interpret what he said from his background in Africa. That in Africa there are clear delineations between the men's roles and the women's roles in the upbringing of the child, and
that's fine.
Those.
No, that's all right. They could be. That's fine.
It's not necessarily fine. No,
well, then if there's a way of the two, the men's role is X and the woman's role is Y. They don't. The UK and Africa are two completely different places, completely different structures. Yeah. The household is different. Yeah. In the UK, he's right. It is easier to raise a child as a single parent. It's easier if the man chooses to walk out. You know that your child is probably not going to starve as if they are in Africa. Right, it's slightly different.
And there are other social parameters in Africa.
Exactly.
There might be family pressures, family shame.
So they won't even leave in the first place.
Well, yeah, or accept a second woman or whatever.
There you go, which is quite common, yeah.
So that's part of the issue he's saying. So we're going to try and unpack that. And the second point he made, as Cheryl quite clearly said, is to say, look, we hate each other over here.
That's sad.
Okay, can we start with the first one? We'll start with the first one. To what extent are we, and I'll start with you, Cheryl, to what extent is the issue of black boys not respecting black girls, just that issue, to what extent is that an Occidental problem, if I could use that phrase, a Western problem, something that belongs to the kind of society that we live in outside perhaps of our historical societies? To what extent do we find ourselves in a way, kind of flapping around, lost at sea, in a kind of a slightly different world from the world.
I think
it's to a larger extent. I would say it's to a larger extent, and the reason I say to a larger extent, I think if you think about it culturally, we're kind of struggling between a kind of a more Eurocentric
assimilation,
where
compared to culture
and how things are done,
yeah,
and the kind of Afrocentric, if I want to use that term. So the caller mentioned kind of clear delineation between roles,
yep,
which is quite common back home, as it were. It's less common here. It's not a right or wrong thing, but we're kind of stuck in the middle. So which one do we do? So our parents are from an Afro-Caribbean background. Do we adopt their cultures and everything is very clear and very different? But we're born here. I've got red passport, right? So what do I adopt? And I think ultimately you find your level. You find a level that's comfortable for you to operate within your relationship. Because within my household, it's African dad, right? But,
straight up.
But that works. And in some households, there's a much more of a kind of mix and blend with the roles, everything, and that works. You just need to find what works for you. I don't think there's a right or wrong.
The problem, though, Cheryl, and come back to you, because I know that you're itching to get onto the black people hate themselves point of view. We'll come on to that. Don't worry, we've got time for that. But the problem here, and as to a certain extent Juliet has expressed it, is that, look, when it comes to the Caribbean or Africa, there is a long tradition of the roles of men and women. There's a long tradition going back hundreds of years. When it comes to our specific situation as black Brits, we haven't really established those parameters, have we? We haven't really established that tradition that we can turn around to and say, this is the way that we behave as black Britons. This is the way, these are our gender roles or our gender delineations, even if those apply anymore in a society now where all those gender distinctions have been broken down. We haven't lived here long enough to create our own.
I don't know, because I think what we had worked clearly, because you got people, it worked to a degree. Yeah, but then what were you taught? Because at the same time, like as a second generation here in the UK, I was quite clear of what exactly my children were going to be taught about their roles and responsibilities as young men.
Carry on being Africans in the third generation.
Why can't they? Who said so? Why is it that Asians can continue to be Asians in the third and fourth generations? Why can Jews continue to be? Yeah, but they do, because in their household they are still going to do what they're going to do, what they've been taught. If you're taught to do things a certain way, okay, you may adapt it as the generations go along. There may be a slight adaptation, but blatant respect, blatant morals, and certain types of things that you're supposed to have, regardless of your nationality, race, or gender, should still be the fundamental basis of your household. As well as that, what are you feeding your children through the television every single day? What are they watching? If they're watching someone shaking their booty 24/7 till all God knows what time of the night, then that's going to have an impact on how they see you. It's not, but I can only speak about my children.
Our children are the ones in crisis, aren't they?
Exactly, so I can only talk about our children. I can't talk about anybody else's children. I can talk about ours, and our children are the ones that are on the screens with their extra beautiful extra derrieres, doing their thing. Our sons are feeding into this. Our daughters are feeding into this with the long weave and the whole 9 yards.
Michael Lord, Cheryl has brought that up. When we talk about disrespecting women, isn't it part of the narrative of young black men and women? Part of the narrative, not all black men and women, I'm not saying that, but it's part of the narrative of young black men and women that the way to go is the sexual exploitation of your form, of your black.
But some learn through carrot, some learn through stick. So we're looking at consequences, we're looking at consciousness. Those are the primary things. So when it comes to teaching our particular boys in our particular community to change this behavior, which we're seeing a predominance of, is going to have to be a structured program. We're going to have some sort of consequences. Like I was saying to Julia earlier, if you talk to a lot of young girls, this is raceless what I'm about to bring up now. They would know about motherhood. They have some vision of themselves in the future as a mother. It is quite rare, anecdotally saying, a boy would have any notion of himself as a father, as a man who has to provide, nurture, teach, interact, have a significant relationship with his wife or his partner. It's rare. I think we have to address that particular issue. We have to teach these boys across racial categories. We teach them across the board that their function in life, what for the community, and has an impact personally in the community.
But isn't that taught to them as individuals to have that respect for self first and foremost and value self first and foremost? And then you can contribute to your community. Because if you have nothing about you, as I will say to my son, you ain't got nothing about you when they do certain silly things. Then it's your responsibility. But then where does that come from? They're not going to just teach themselves one day, wake up at 10 and say, hello. Someone has to teach them that. Yeah. And if that's sometimes, and a lot of the occasions, it's not coming from their parents, because sometimes their parents don't even know about that. So where are they actually going to get that from?
It takes, as we all know.
Is that now for the schools to do?
No, it takes a village to raise a child, as we all know.
Where is this village? Because I need to move there. Because I need to find this village that we keep talking about. As the guy said on the phone, it's like we don't like each other. Because when Francis's son's Kwame down the road gets himself arrested or something, we're quick to be like, you never see what Francis got to do with our picnic. Nobody talk to him. Do you understand? And it's like we're so judgmental with certain things, rather than knocking and making sure she's okay and her child. Of course it's happening. I created my village where I live.
I guess from my own experience again of like becoming successful and doing what I have to do, I noticed that I've lost quite a significant amount of my black friends and family.
Really? Why?
I don't know. I don't know if it's because I'm in a different headspace to where I was before.
What, you're not in a black headspace?
no, don't put words into my mouth. I didn't say that.
Because you're saying you lost a lot of your black friends and family.
What
headspace are they in that you're not in anymore?
I think it's just where, okay, I emphasize the word black because that stands out more and also what we're talking about. But there are other races as well that have fallen back. I think it's because I've grown to a place where I love and respect myself and I believe in myself so much that sometimes it might seem like I've changed a lot and they can't really relate to that. They can't relate to the growth. And I'm a different person than I was before. You know,
That's interesting, isn't it? That is interesting. I always ask people, are we the same today as we were 20 years ago? Because if we're not, a lot of people in prison are innocent.
But they are. We know that.
Sorry?
I said a lot of people in prison are innocent.
Even more so. Probably nearly all of them are innocent if we change, because they're doing 20-year stretches and arguably we're imprisoning the wrong person, not the person that they are anymore. Do we hate each other, though, Aisha? Do we actually hate each other? That's a strong word, isn't it?
I think hate is a strong word, but I do think like the black community and black people can have a bit more respect for each other, because it's just little things like you might go into Jamaican food shop I use for an example.
Oh God! Really?
Like, no, thank you, nothing, and it's just unnecessary. It's like,
do you know what? They might have had a bad day every day.
No, that's not your business.
Every shop you go into, and it's not just even in a Jamaican food shop. It could just be anywhere. You go into Topshop and then there might be a black girl on the till, and just for some reason she's got an attitude, and it's like, what have I done? We need to be better with each other.
Where do you think the attitude comes from?
I just think it's a lack of respect for ourselves and for each other.
It's not in our culture, though, to hate each other.
No, it's not in our culture, but I think sometimes...
Is it in our history?
It does go back from history, and it is a lot of what the media installs into us. It's fed through the media that we shouldn't stick together and things like that. And I think, we do need to respect each other more and just be more vigilant. Like, you might see a black person, just thank you, please. Do you get what I mean? It's the small things, because these are the things that our kids are seeing. And going into a shop.
It would change things, wouldn't it? As Aisha said, Cheryl, it would change things if we all respected each other a lot more. Of course it would. Black people particularly,
I just think that, do you know what I think? Just in case you want to know.
Yeah, of course I do.
There was a day I woke up in a really foul mood, and I was like, whatever. But then I made a conscious decision that when I step out my door today, I'm going to say good morning, good afternoon, and good whatever to every person. And I did. And do you know, with that, I had some people that gave me weird looks, some people that said good afternoon, good morning, and smiled, and some people just were like, didn't know what to do with themselves. For me, I personally believe that it's a personal choice that you make to either be happy, respectful, and all the rest of the things. And if you put that onto somebody else, they have no choice. They're not going to be like, oh, good morning. Well, I tell me good morning. They're going to have to do something or say something.
Although
they have to.
Julian, be honest. Did Cheryl say good evening to you this evening when she met you? Be honest, Julian.
Yeah, exactly.
Be honest, Julian.
She did.
Yes,
See, they were all antisocial. They were all on their mobiles.
She never said a word to me, by the way. Michael, did she say good evening to you?
She said you're all on your phones. I said hi, Cheryl. How you doing, my Nubian queen?
Oh my God!
Did she say good evening to you?
She said that we're all on our phones, so she did address us, which was good.
We were disrespecting her.
Yeah, we probably were the real ones.
Guys, it's been a real pleasure. You know, we have to bring this conversation to an end. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you, Dotun.
Thank you.
Good evening.